Hey guys, welcome back to the second video. Sorry it took so long, I've been a little busy, and I'm trying to do a series where we go over the Rhett and Link deconstruction videos, but those are very long, and I'm trying to cut them down, so it won't be too long videos, and see how to split them up and everything. But anyways, today we're going to be reacting to atheists and Christians, Jubilee. It's the middle ground. We're going to see their conversation. There's some good conversation. One of them needs to really just calm down. But anyways, let's get into it.
I'm nervous about what's going to happen today.
I mean, I'm nervous because this is a normal topic that people can usually talk about, but in this climate, it's very touchy to even say I believe or I don't believe, you know.
Right.
So
It's funny, I would think that you would feel safer in the belief category than I feel in the non-belief category. I was raised in a house very culturally Jewish. We talked a lot about God and religion and many different religions of the world, but I wasn't raised with any faith, with any religious faith in the house.
just 2 years ago, I hated Christians. I think I was an atheist, but I voiced all my doubts and skepticisms, and they gave me their perspective on it. That kind of opened me up, and that's why I'm a man of faith today.
I believe there is good in every person.
I think if I just choose to believe that everyone is purely bad or evil, then that's going to be pretty.
And then you have to decide what the definition of good is. What
like
is good?
according to Christianity, there's no one good, no, not one. But I don't necessarily believe that if no one's good. I
We're
don't
born
want,
with a sin nature.
Yeah, so that's hard. Is like my definition of good may not align with Scripture, so it's hard because that's why I hesitated. Like I want to believe everybody's good.
If that's antithetical to the Christian belief, is that you're born is sinful. It's interesting that the three of you came who are believers in that.
I'm not saying people are innately good. I'm saying I just understood the question as all people are capable of good.
Disagree.
Yeah, no. Start with Hitler and go from there. Are people, are some people born good and turn bad?
Well, I think that's why the
right.
definition of good is subjective. That's why it's like each his own for a definition,
We
which is kind of hard.
don't know what is right or wrong without the Bible, because it's God that makes the rules.
Really?
Without God,
Really?
you have no rules.
You can't make a decision on your own whether it's good or bad.
What about Hitler? He made a decision. He
Right,
thought it was
and-
good.
And he was wrong. You don't need the Bible to tell you that.
Well, you're born with that. God put that in you.
As
That
you
nature,
believe.
that conscience.
As you believe.
That's not a belief, it's a fact. I'm an author of 2 books where I give the whole history of the Earth from paleontology, geology, archaeology, publish about 4 articles on numerous subjects, including politics, science, meteoritics, dinosaurs.
Okay, so I'm going to take a first pause there. We're already getting into subjective or relative truth. She's like, well, the Bible's got this definition, but I've got this definition, and there's this and this. Okay. Does that mean, I would want to know with her, does that mean to her every truth is relative? Because if so, there's a bunch of issues with that. Or is she just saying something like good and evil is relative and subjective? Because if so, well then, does that mean everything's permissible because it's subjective? Like, you can say it's wrong, but I can say it's right. Is that okay then? Because if so, well then, like they were commenting on Hitler, where is your moral standpoint for that? Because if morality is subjective, well then, what he did can't be wrong. It might be wrong to you, you might prefer it not happen, yet it did. And yet he and many Germans believed to be right. So, if morality is subjective, especially if you go on to say all truth is subjective, then you have no standing point to say that was right or wrong. You can say you prefer it or not. Well, from my point of view, from my subjective point of view, but you also have one. And then you have a thing where it doesn't really matter. Because what he wants and you want equal ground, so it doesn't really matter, and you can do whatever you want. There's no right, there's no wrong. But if we take the biblical idea of good and evil, that God is good, he's just, and, you know, God has shown us what is good and just, then it's no longer subjective. I, as a Christian, can sit here and I can say what Hitler did was horrible, wrong. And there's no way to say it was right. But when you make morality subjective, you have now lost the ability to say that. And what's interesting is they were talking about, does everyone have good? And the one guy brought up sin nature. And the thing is, like, yeah, none of us are good, are truly, fully good. But because of the grace of God, we're not as bad as we could be. So we can do good via God's grace. But we are not good in ourselves. We are not truly good. And if you looked at us, if you were to take everything we've done, you would not see a good person but a sinful person. But again, going back, she can't make those judgments. As a Christian, I can say, hey, doing this and that is wrong. And we all, I am no better than you. But I can say there's something wrong, right? But she could look at somebody get murdered, and according to her, with morality being subjective, I'd rather you not kill him, but if you say it's okay, and morality is subjective, then what I think doesn't matter. And if that's true for you, I guess I have to let you murder. Well, then most people who have this will make the argument, well, you're hurting somebody else, it's not just yourself. Okay, so there is some kind of objective truth there then. Objectively, it's only subjective when it comes only to you. Is that what you're saying? Because then there is objective morality. If subjective morality is true, then there is no basis for anyone to do anything that you would say is right or wrong. And you can't say that somebody else is doing something wrong. And you can't say, well, that's hurting somebody else, and that's wrong, because that's also morality. And so you either have to say there is objective morality, or everything is permissible. And I kind of think they might get into that. I don't know. I'm recording these as I watch it, so... but I kind of hope that they do get back into that, because that's something that's really big and important when you go into these atheistic or naturalistic views, is subjective truth and relative truth, and being that, like, without objective truth, everything is permissible. But obviously we would say racism, rape, murder, we'd say that's wrong, but they have no basis to say it's wrong. They're pulling from God. They're saying God says it's wrong and has shown us this is wrong. And I'm saying it's wrong, but I'm also saying that really everything's subjective and there's no right or wrong.
I believe my life has worth and value.
To my mother. Yes, I would want people to think that they have worth and value, but I mean, we are all ants on a big ball.
We are all very important. The design in those things, if a man were to design it, it would cost several $1 million to make a human, if that were possible. And yet, God has created billions of us.
Come on, Nancy.
I believe in people. I believe we make our own choices. I don't believe that there is a overriding being controlling those choices or controlling our situation.
You are important.
So I do not think that inherently just existing gives you worth and value. I think that you make choices, personal choices every single day on how you live your life and how you treat people and how you exist in the world, and those
Well, hold on. You just made a definition about what value is, but you still don't believe you're valuable based on your explanation?
I said I'm not inherently valuable. My being born does not just...
You're saying based on your contribution to the world determines your value, right? What you give back.
No, please don't.
Oh, no, I'm trying to figure out what you meant.
There are many people who just exist because of instinct or because... Do their lives have value? I don't know. If they find value in it, sure. If they don't, maybe not. Who am I to judge whether somebody's life is inherently valuable?
Okay, so before I even watch what they say, I want to discuss. That's really sad. The one girl didn't go up. And I'm not sure what they're going to say in a minute, but I think what's important to remember is when you're a naturalist and there's no God, there's nothing above us, there's nothing that created us, there's nothing that gives us intrinsic value. We're stardust bumping into stardust. We've come from dust and will return to dust. That's what you have when you're in a naturalistic view. And so, as a Christian, I say, God created me in His image. I have value because God has created me and given me value. But when you come from an atheist point of view, it's just nothing really has purpose or value or anything. It's just stardust bumping into stardust. There's no intrinsic value in anything. And again, going back to like morality, there's no morality. There's nothing really matters in the end, because nothing gives you or anyone else value or purpose. There's no reason or point of life. It's just you're alive. And you're only alive because of some natural process that happened, and there's no real meaning to any of it. I was just at a conference, and one of the guys there was talking about suicide. He talks about the naturalistic world of view, and he gives a little bit of his testimony, and he said that he was trying to be consistent with his atheism, because he was an atheist at the time of his story, and his friend died, and he just said, well, stardust to stardust, and really didn't give it a second thought. But when you're an atheist, if you are truly consistent with your belief, there is no value. And the Bible addresses this. If you look in Ecclesiastes, right, Solomon was just anything he could get. Basically had everything. But it says that it was a chasing after the wind. It was futile. There was no purpose. And that's exactly this. And people find their purpose in, I gotta do this, which is why you find many people who get to the top, the pinnacle of their career, where they're just the top, everybody knows them, they're awesome. They're the most depressed, or even killing themselves, because the only thing that gave them purpose was, I want to get this job, or I want to do this. And you do it, but there's no true value in it. Without God, there is no true value. And so, I'm excited to see how they get into this, but for the one atheist that stepped back, she's being consistent with her belief. But that's really sad that she truly believes she has no value. But again, if you're an atheist, and you truly believe in that atheism, then you believe, whether directly or not, you have no value. Because that's what that would mean to not have a God. To not have God is to have no value and no purpose. You're just stardust floating around the universe.
I have had my doubts on the existence of a higher power.
I am a woman of faith and belief. I believe in the supernatural and higher power and a being that there's no accident in the way we were created. Yeah, I think anytime I have gone through hardship, I've questioned not just what I believe, I question my life, I question my profession, I question my relationships. So
I think, if you believe, whether it's Islam, Hindu, I think you have to doubt it. You can't just jump in there and be like, sign me up, I agree with everything, let's do this.
That would be for you, but that's not for everybody that is a believer of any particular religion. Some people don't question anything.
But in your view, by standing and saying, I don't think there's any higher power,
Do you ever face any doubt of thinking maybe there is?
Well, the definition of an atheist is someone who does not believe. It's not a declaration per se that there is no God. I am an atheist activist. I'm on the board of Atheists United here in Los Angeles and on the steering committee for Americans United for Separation of Church and State.
All right, come on in.
No, I've never had any doubt, because I can see design everywhere. And you are not an atheist, you're an agnostic.
No.
You see,
I'm
an
atheist.
agnostic
No,
believes.
don't tell me what I am. I am an atheist.
An atheist doesn't believe
I'm
in...
an atheist, no.
An atheist doesn't
The
believe in the
definition-
supernatural,
No.
period.
An atheist
An
does not believe in
agnostic
the, no.
does believe
An
in the
atheist is
supernatural.
someone that does not
He
believe
just
in
doesn't
God.
believe in God.
I am telling you what an atheist is.
You're wrong.
No.
Do you believe in the
I am an
supernatural?
atheist. You know,
Do you
look,
believe in the
look,
supernatural?
Look, do not tell me
Do you believe
what
in
I
witches?
am.
We don't need to make
What I
anybody
am.
right or wrong. It's just answer the question, give her
tell me what I
space to
am.
talk. Give her space to talk.
Do you believe that this line of interrogation, questioning furthers your...
No, I'm just giving facts.
This is exactly what I'm talking about with this guy. Like, you don't just go up to her and go, you're not an atheist, you're an agnostic. Yeah. I would say, depending on where she is, maybe she is agnostic, because people say atheism is just not believing anything. But when you really dig into that, you can't not believe anything. If you don't believe in a God, then you believe there's no God, right? It's not, you could say you don't know, and that really is what an agnostic is. Usually, a lot of times an agnostic would be like, there's probably something, maybe it's not what you would call a God, but it's something, or I don't know, I just don't know. That's agnostic. Atheist is there's no God. Then you have like agnostic, there might be. And then, you know, theist, there is a God. And so maybe he's right. Maybe she is an agnostic, or maybe she's just an atheist who uses the other term. But the way she said that, it does seem like she's an agnostic. I don't know, though. And how would you find that out? Have conversation with her, even if she is. There's no point in pushing it. Like it's not that important. It's something to keep in mind when you're talking to somebody, because understanding what they believe is very key in having conversations like these. But, like, dude, just be respectful. It doesn't seem like he has any respect for them. I'm not saying he doesn't necessarily, but he's not treating them with it. But when we're having conversations with, whether it's a Muslim, an atheist, somebody who believes in Judaism, Hinduism, or whatever they believe, we need to have respect and love. I don't care if they're atheist or agnostic or what. We need to have respect and love and listen. Don't just expect them to listen. Ask questions, dig, and talk. But don't just go up to them and say, I know everything, I've never had doubts, you're an agnostic, and then as they say, no, I'm an atheist, just say, okay. And, you know, take what you can see what she believes and dissect that and talk. But that doesn't mean you have to keep going, yes you are, yes you are, yes you are, as she's saying, no, I'm not. I mean, this guy just has no respect for them. And I mean, how do you think that bodes for Christians, right? Especially when you go on something like this. You do have the weight of representing Christianity. Should Christianity be represented by a sinner? No. But that's how it's going to work when we go on here. And so we need to be careful to truly and carefully represent Christ. And he's just, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm going to speak, you're going to listen. You know, no respect. And he's really just going to push them farther away instead of just helping them to listen. And so we should take this as an example of what not to do. Now, maybe it gets better as the video goes on, we'll see, but I'm about halfway through, and he's the main one to talk, and he just hasn't said anything respectfully yet.
Saved by the bell.
I am feeling frustrated right now.
I'm feeling frustrated because it's even amidst the fellow believers, like the things he says, I'm just like, yo, I don't even know. I don't want what he says to reflect what my faith is too, you know what I mean?
I think it's sad that people are so determined to make other people wrong. And I grew up in a household with a conservative Jewish mother and a born-again Christian father, and I was in an abusive marriage. and my father yelled at me that I was going to hell when I walked out. I'm sorry. I don't believe in a God that would believe that.
Yeah, that's not.
It's not, and that is objectively, I don't care. That's
in
crazy.
These conversations, like, you know, if we have people who are just trying to drive their point through and almost
Exactly.
converting it, it kind of shuts down conversation.
Exactly.
I want to know what you believe and why you don't.
Anybody else? Come on in.
Again, we have the power to choose our response to things. So I choose not to feel hurt. I choose not to be misunderstood.
I think there's safety in being heard and understood. You feel as if whatever it is that you want to be understood about matters.
I'm getting married in the next 2 months, and I'm learning that just loving is not the same as understanding. And it takes energy and effort to understand someone who's different. I think we're kind of, as a society, becoming lazy. So we're like, oh, you're different. I don't want to understand. I need people who are just saying.
It's always been that way.
It's always been.
Okay, so before everyone else comes in, I really like how he said that he's just all, I want to have this conversation. I don't want it being shut down. Let's talk and see what you believe. And it's not about these gotcha shut down moments, you're so dumb, you can't answer the question. Like, it really is just coming heart to heart and having a conversation. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? Well, have you ever thought of Christ, and digging in and talking about these issues. And I really am sad to hear that her dad did that. That is not a representation of Christ's love, and there are times like that when stepping out is in order, and that doesn't mean you can't ever come back. I think of like Christ talking about marriage, and he's all, it was never meant to be, but he allowed it to be because of the issues. It was never meant to allow divorce, but because of how sinful we were and things, he gave us grace and allowed us to. And so, yelling at, I can't imagine seeing a man abuse your daughter, and her saying, I'm divorcing him, I can't stay in this marriage, I'm being abused, this is not okay. I don't know if it was physical or verbal, but it really doesn't matter. I can't imagine looking at my daughter after seeing and hearing that and go, you're going to hell for leaving him. No. And if she's going to hell because she sinned once, other than, I'm saying, let's say she was in Christ, right? Because it seems like his point was saying because she divorced. If you could sin and lose your salvation, now I don't know if she was a Christian at the time, but her father was it seemed like her father was very much, because you're divorcing him. If you can lose your salvation because you sinned, then we're all screwed. Because let me tell you, I and every other person on this planet sin every day. I do not love the Lord with all my heart, mind, soul, strength, and being. I struggle with lust. I struggle with, blasphemy. Everyone, it's very easy to slip. Or say things that you mean or necessarily understand, and then find out, oh, this is connected to this. This means this. This is actually comes from, I think it was G's. That's a euphemism for Jesus. I didn't know that. I used it all the time. When I found that out, I really had to sit there and think and pray, and I'm so sorry, God. So it's really easy to fall into these things, and we sin every day. I and no one else is an exception. There is no exception to that. We sin. And so instead of the Father coming to her, comforting her, and saying, hey, Christ has you, just lean on Christ, to yell at her and say you're going to hell is the dumbest, worst, and cruelest thing I could ever imagine saying in that situation. So I do feel really bad for her on that, but going back to the original point with the question, I do like how they talked about that in Greek. Like, let's just have a conversation, not be like, you're wrong. I mean, this dude would not even let her speak. He was just arguing over her. You're not an atheist. But I'm glad that they got the chance to make up that point and be like, no, he needs to stop. He's not right. Like, if they didn't, and that's how it sat with everybody just seeing him do that, I think it would have frustrated everybody and upset everybody. But the fact that they got to sit there and talk, they're like, okay, that guy, he's going to keep doing that. But they can still see the point of grace and things from the other two. And so I am glad that came through, and I'm glad that she was able to say all that. And I really hope that they kind of get into that if it gets brought up again, but I don't think it will, because I'm at 9 out of 12 minutes. But we'll see.
Time. I believe, as a person, I have room for improvement.
Oh, look, we all agree.
We all have room for improvement.
That's my aspiration on a daily basis, is to be a better person.
We're always learning.
I used to think at some point I would actualize into, I've made it. I've made it into maturity and wisdom. No.
You're a teenager, you think, when I'm in college, I'll have it figured out.
Yep.
When I graduate, I'll have it figured out. When I get married, I'll have it figured out. When I have kids, I have it figured out. But we're always...
We won't reach perfection until we get to heaven. Down here is an imperfect world. Our knowledge is imperfect. Our bodies are imperfect. Our world is imperfect.
I mean, I'm agreeing with you, but it's the delivery of it is...
All right,
we understand
improvement.
it, but...
Right.
Let's stay up.
We all. What was the question? We all believe that we have room for improvement. Yeah, certainly.
Hey, if you notice that I'm wearing something different or I look different, it's because my last clip, it got corrupted or something. It's not working on my editing, so I'm just recording this real quick. So if you go and watch the video on your own, which I do recommend doing, I didn't cut anything out. Every clip that I showed in this video, I showed you the whole thing, because I didn't want to cut something or take something out of context. I want to show the whole context, so you can also understand it and see what you think. But that the one guy, obviously I agree with his statement that while we're on Earth, we'll all be sinners, because we all do need to improve. We are sinners. There is no exception to that rule that we are all sinners, and we all need to strive to be like Christ, and pray that God would help us and give us the strength and work to being more like Him with sanctification. That's what He's given us. But to sit there after all the I'm right, you're wrong kind of talk, and just be like, and acting like, oh, I know everything, to turn to the Christians and just now ignoring the atheists and be like, well, while we're on this earth, we're sinners, but, we'll be great. And just like, I don't know, I feel like he's ignoring them, going to the Christians, and he's not getting straight to the point. Like, the question was, is there room for improvement? And I think he very much so could have brought up and been like, I think we're all sinners, and I think that we all need to strive to be more like Christ, or we all need to fight our sin. I think that would have been great. But after everything he said, to then just, ignore them and just start talking about heaven and things with the Christians, I don't know. It seemed a little interesting to me. So I agree with the middle guy, that just, that delivery. Yeah, that guy was really something. But, anyway, so that's the end of the video. I would recommend going watching it yourself, like I said. But I'll see you guys next time.